Welcome everyone. Maddie and I have been getting lots of questions lately about some of our top spots that we have visited around Australia now that we've been travelling for a fair while. So obviously this is our second lap of Australia. And we thought we would, get on and make a video to tell you some of our top spots in Western Australia.
So it'd take us all day if we picked out our top spots around the whole country. So just WA for this one, top 5. We've been to some absolute cracker spots, like obviously, you know, all your big ticket ones like Exmouth, which is amazing, Turquoise Bay.
Yeah, that was
great.
That
water there, that's just on another level.
Yeah, that Pink Lake Hut Lagoon we went to was crazy.
Just north of Geraldton in Port Gregory, amazing spot.
Yeah.
You know, the likes of Esperance as well, obviously, beautiful spot. What else?
I loved sandboarding in Lancelin.
Yeah, Lancelin, the desert Pinnacles, that was also awesome.
Yeah.
But this one is sort of going to be about some of the maybe slightly lesser known spots, so not those really big ticket obvious ones that you probably all know about. These are some of those
more underrated spots. But even though they're underrated, they happen to actually be our top 5 most favourite places in WA.
Some of our absolute favourites. So
yeah, and I feel like we've collectively now spent, about 6 months altogether in Western Australia over the 2 laps.
Yeah.
So I feel like we have seen quite a lot, and I do feel confident that we can give you some pretty good recommendations of our favourite spots now that we've seen and spent that much time in the state.
For 2 East Coasters, we think we can give you a fairly fair assessment of what we enjoyed. So this is obviously through the lens of a couple doing it in a 4-wheel drive with a rooftop tent. So, you know, maybe slightly different for you if you've got a different setup or value different things. But we love a good 4-wheel drive adventure. We love a good off-road trip. So that's kind of where we're coming from with our top 5. So in no particular order, counting down, number 5, we're going to kick it off with the Kennedy Ranges. So this spot absolutely blew our minds. About an hour and a half east, so an hour and a half inland from Carnarvon, lies the Kennedy Ranges just north of the Gascoyne Junction. So there's a cool little town there. It's got heaps of supplies, bits and pieces that you can fill up with water and fuel and do all that before you set off. It's a 270k round trip. So you can start either side, but we started on the western side of the ranges, drove up through there, over the top of the ranges, and then back down the eastern side.
Yeah, so that's called the Kennedy Range Loop Track that we did. It's an absolutely amazing track if you have a 4-wheel drive. But essentially the Kennedy Ranges are like 75 kilometre huge ancient sandstone plateau. It's incredible. The whole Kennedy Range National Park is beautiful. But yes, we decided to do the Kennedy Range Loop Track, which basically takes you, like Maddie said, from junction to junction, 270 kilometres.
About a day and a half if you're not sort of, you know, unless you want to hang around the campgrounds or explore for ages, you can do it quite comfortably in a day and a half. It's not that, you know, it's not the biggest loop, 270 Ks.
So this spot, blew our minds. We missed it on our first lap, and I'm so glad that we got to do it on this second lap. So we were there at about in October this year.
Yeah.
It was fairly dry, so at the start of the track there is a bit of a river crossing that can be quite challenging if you're there in the wetter seasons, but it was pretty dry when we were there.
Yeah, there was
really easy.
Pretty much nothing in there water-wise, so you cross the Gascoyne River, so that can get pretty boggy, pretty sandy. It was pretty sandy when we were there, but obviously no water, so it was easy to get through it. Stories of people occasionally getting a bit stuck in there if you take the wrong route through it. But dry for us as we crossed over the river, and then we probably spent I guess we were filming it as well, but a good part of the day trekking from the start of the track up to the top of the cliffs. So along the way, some rocky 4-wheel drive tracks and sand dunes, spinifex. It's a really ever-changing landscape all throughout that whole trek up to the top. And then we got to the plateau.
Yeah, so you reach the top of the ridge on the vista points, and it's just this sheer red cliff face. And we were lucky enough to be able to camp up on that vista point on top of those cliffs. There are other camping spots down on the bottom if you choose to do that. But going into it, we had seen like people camping up there, and it was
just
definitely on our
views,
bucket list. And when we
incredible.
got there, I don't know. It shot to like the top of my list of WA straight away. It's just such an unknown place. I just had no idea what to expect. And when we got there, I still don't really know how to describe it. Like, it just blew my mind.
And waking up to that sunset, and it was
incredible.
It's a good spot. And then down on the eastern side, after you cross down over the ridge, you've got Temple Gorge Campground, which is the national park campground you can stay in, and then Honeycomb Gorge as well, which we visited, which was quite a unique little honeycomb formation on the side of the cliffs, which was cool. Yeah,
there's lots of gorges you can explore as you do that loop as well. If you don't have a four-wheel drive, you don't have to do the whole track. You can just explore the east side of the ranges, which are accessible with the two-wheel drive as well, and you can hit a lot of those gorges from that side. So, yeah. Still definitely recommend, regardless of if you like a good four-wheel drive adventure or not. Okay,
number four is Karijini National Park, one of our absolute favourites. We had a really good time in Karijini. We visited in late October 21.
We did, and from memory, it was really, really hot when we went.
Yeah. It was definitely getting to the point where it was a bit too warm, so you're probably better off visiting a bit earlier than that. Yeah,
so I believe probably the best time to visit would be that autumn period where it's cool enough to do the hikes to the gorges, and then warm enough to sort of swim in the gorges in the cold water. So
it's actually quite cold once you do get down into those gorges, like what's the one with the spider walk?
Hancock Gorge.
Hancock Gorge. Once you get down there, is it Hancock Gorge, the one with the spider walk?
With the spider walk, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite cool down there, so it gets surprisingly cold. So I can imagine in winter it would be, you want to try and strike that balance of having that weather not too cold.
Yeah. So Karijini is in the Pilbara region. It's about 7 hours from Exmouth.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
For us, this was like the ultimate outback adventure. It was really cool. We love how remote and off-grid it was. We got to do some really beautiful remote camping at this spot called Buddha's Campground. Hot tip, if you're going there, you'll love that spot. There's nothing there, no facilities or anything, but you're camping under these beautiful red mountainous areas.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, a beautiful spot. That one's probably closest to, I always get the two confused, not Hancock, Hammersley Gorge. So that's not far from Hammersley Gorge. That's not a bad spot to stay if you want to go into Hammersley Gorge and do the spa pool.
That famous, really, really beautiful blue spa pool.
Really cool. Not a big hike or anything. It doesn't actually take too long to get in there. It's a decent sort of staircase down into the gorge, and then climbing up to the spa pool is fairly easily. Those rocks can be a bit slippery, but you can swim across to it as well.
Yeah, that was beautiful. So I guess our favourite gorges that we got to hit in Karijini would definitely be the Hammersley Gorge spa pool. Hancock Gorge, that has the spider walk, like Maddie mentioned, and what we mean by that, if you haven't seen it, is essentially there's a part of the hike down where you have to sort of spider climb your way down through the gorge, which is really, really fun. It is a bit of a challenging hike, but we loved that one, didn't we?
Yeah, there's some cool spots where actually the water gets so deep in some sections you do have to swim across. So
yeah, you have to swim through.
Camera bags above our head and had to work our way through it. But that was a really cool spot.
So cool. And then you finally get to the end, you get this beautiful, little green pool at the bottom of these huge,
Kermit's Pool, it was called.
Walls, yeah. Incredible.
Very cool. And then probably we didn't go to every single one, but Fern Pool is another one that we went to. Just a spectacular fern-surrounded, beautiful blue waterfall off the rocks. Just a really nice spot. A nice hike in as well, not too crazy. Yeah, most of these ones in Karijini aren't huge hikes. They're just, you'll just encounter usually a lot of stairs and stuff like that. But they're not like all-day hikes or anything to get into the pools.
Yeah. No, Karijini was, incredible.
Very cool.
Definitely one to put on your list. Number 3?
Number 3 is...
Kununurra.
Yeah. So I think I'll speak for ourselves, but I think we overlooked Kununurra a little bit on our first trip because we had El Questro and the Gib River Road so front of mind. And we were just passing through Kununurra and really wanted to get on the Gib and do El Questro and, you know, see that mid and western side of the Kimberley and get to Broome. So we kind of skipped over it a little bit.
We rushed it a bit.
We did rush it a bit, but this second time around, I think we did Kununurra a bit more justice and we really, really enjoyed it. Once you start to dig into what is around Kununurra, it's actually mind-blowing. Really, really good spot. We stayed at Buttons Crossing, which is just north of Kununurra on the Ord River. Spectacular.
Beautiful free camp on the Ord River. Would you say it's like, for me, it's probably one of my favourite camping spots we've done on the entire trip.
Yeah, I remember pulling up and we were definitely mind blown by it. We camped sort of like right on the river, this little freshwater beach that we kind of had all to ourselves.
It was incredible.
Did a little bit of fishing in there. Didn't catch much at that spot, but a few freshies in there. Apparently there's some salt. Yeah, apparently there's salties.
We found out after the fact.
Someone said that they stayed in that exact spot that we were in and they'd seen a salty on the bank opposite on the other side of the riverbank from where we were. So we didn't go swimming there, but it was really good.
So Kununurra is sort of the first town that you come across as you cross into WA from the NT. It's known as the gateway to the eastern Kimberleys. So we spent about probably a week there exploring that area, which, to be honest, now that we have spent that time there, would totally recommend that amount of time. A lot of people just pass through as they're sort of heading towards Broome. But yeah, if you have the time, stop and spend some time there. That's got the iconic Ivanhoe crossing, which is, I guess,
that's a must-do
on the bucket list for a lot of four-wheel drivers.
So it's not a gazetted road, and there's all these signs up saying like you're basically crossing at your own risk. This is not a road, but it's if you've got a four-wheel drive, it's really not dangerous if you're not being stupid.
It's not a challenging crossing. Just be smart
fun.
about it.
Yeah, it's just fun to do.
It's really fun. That was cool. The campsite, and then we found this amazing spot called the Secret Springs. We sort of heard about it on the down low and then didn't really know much about it, but ended up finding it, and it was probably one of the coolest spots we've ever found. Essentially a bit of a full drive track-in, which was really fun. Lots of little water crossings, a little bit of a hike where you have to climb up these waterfalls and do some boulder climbing, and a bit of a challenging hike now that I'm reflecting on it, actually.
And it was probably a moderately challenging four-wheel drive track-in as well. Not super crazy, but just one where you really have to take your time. There's some interesting water crossings in there, which I imagine, closer to the wet season. We were there in, September, somewhere around September. I imagine closer to the wet season would be even crazier, but just one of those ones where you do have to take your time, but it's a really fun little track getting in and out of there. A few little tight spots you've got to squeeze through. And
our top tip is, if you're going to try and reach this, there's like different levels of sort of beautiful swimming holes as you're climbing up. Keep climbing. Go all the way to the top, because you might like see a waterhole and be like, this is amazing, let's just stay here and stop swimming. But as you climb, they just get even more spectacular, which you don't think is possible until you reach the top one. And it's like this natural infinity pool, and you're just overlooking these like incredible ranges.
Yeah. There's probably three key ones. One at the base when you start walking, a second one, and then that third one is the infinity pool, which is, it's not that far once you...
No, it's not a long hike.
Yeah, it's not a long hike.
You're just going sort of up.
Yeah, so Kununurra, epic spot, absolutely would go back. I feel like we barely even scratched the surface of Kununurra. There's plenty more to do.
It's a good access to like the Bungles as well. Lake Argyle's incredible. Yeah. So there's so much to do there, but
in that area,
it is worth seeing those spots in and around Kununurra as well, we think.
Yeah, not far from Kununurra too, you've got the Pentecost River crossing, pretty much the start of the Gib River Road too, so just west of Kununurra, some great barra to be caught in there. We got a couple of good ones.
Maddie caught his first barra of this trip at the Pentecost.
They're called bomber lures that I got it on. They were quick tip, went to the fishing shop in Kununurra. The bloke hooked me up there, so that was good.
Best fish tacos I've ever had.
Yeah. No, that was good. Bucket list trip.
Yeah.
So
all right.
Number two, Dontracasто National Park.
Yeah.
Now we found we hadn't even heard of D'Entrecasteaux until we watched a video from Explorebound. Our mate Dan and Bianca did a video on D'Entrecasteaux, and we were like, yeah, check this place out.
Yeah, we got to do that.
Pretty cool. So about 5 hours south of Perth, 3 hours south of, a couple of hours south of Margaret River, is D'Entrecasteaux National Park. And this is sort of like a real skinny national park that runs along the coastline. And I reckon it's a hidden gem. Like
For sure.
it looked good in the videos we had watched, but it was even better than we got there. It's sort of like a really nice mix of, you've got the beaches, you've got the really nice bush campsites, you've got the four-wheel driving aspect to it. Like, it's a really nice overall.
It was like the complete package of a little road
that's what
trip.
I'm trying to
like
say,
like you said, we got to drive through these beautiful karri forests, which turned into some river crossings, which turned into bush camps, which turned into beach driving.
Yeah.
Coastal cliffs, like everything.
Yeah, it had a bit of everything with the stuff that we really enjoy doing. So we absolutely loved that.
Our favourite camp spot we found.
Yeah, Moore's Hut or Coodamurrup Hut. It's also known. I think they mainly call it Coodamurrup Hut, don't they?
Yeah, Coodamurrup Hut is what most of the signs say. But essentially, it's this hut that's been built over 100 years ago, and I think it was built for like some of the farming families to stay in whilst their cattle was grazing in the area. But it's still pretty much formed, so people go and camp there, and if you can take your swag in or a mattress or something like that, people can actually camp in the hut itself out of the elements, which I think is really cool. And it's sort of maintained all its old historic features, like the fireplace, and it has this old little rickety bed in it.
Yeah.
And it's a really, really interesting spot. One of the more unique spots that we found to camp at.
Very unique. And then from the Coodamurrup Hut where you can camp, it's only a 15-minute drive to get to Coodamurrup Beach, which was pretty cool. So that was just a quick duck down the road, drove onto the beach. Super windy there that day, but
we were just there at a bad time.
Yeah, we were just there at a bad time. So
I think like they recommend September or October, November maybe, those warmer months. But I think if you are there around then, you can also see some whales off the coast, which is pretty cool. We didn't see any, but better luck next time.
Nice drive up the beach though. It was good.
Yeah, it was beautiful. We made our way out to this other cool track towards Fish Creek Hut as well.
So it's a track that leads from Coodamurrup Hut, an inland track that goes up to the old Fish Creek Hut campground. So there used to be a hut there, has since been demolished, but I believe you can still camp there on the old site.
Beautiful camp spot, right near sort of these cliffs, and yeah, that was gorgeous.
Interesting drive, like really interesting four-wheel drive track through there. We thought it's 17 k's from Coodamurrup Hut to the old Fish Creek Hut site, and we thought 17 k's this will be quick, but it's actually quite a challenging track with some really interesting sections on it. We put the drone up on one part, and an eagle tried to take it.
It had it in its talons and was like flying with the drone, and we were like, oh no.
We thankfully found it with that Find My Drone feature, because you can make the drone beep, and it happens to fall just near the track.
Thankfully.
And it still flew.
Yeah.
Luckily.
Yes, so that was a surprising hidden gem for us, D'Entrecasteaux National Park. Yeah, it was amazing.
Loved it. Would definitely recommend it if you want a good four-wheel driving and camping adventure.
Yeah. Number one. Last one.
Boranup Forest and the Margaret River area.
Yeah. This place was just so incredibly peaceful. I think is the best word to describe it.
I think that's what's the main thing that struck us when we got there, was just how calm we felt and just how peaceful it was in that area. It was just really, really relaxing. Yeah.
So Margaret River area is only a couple of hours south of Perth.
Yeah, so 2-3 hours south of Perth. Obviously very well known as a wine region is what it's probably most famous for. We didn't do a lot of winery visiting or anything like that on this trip, but we did do...
Love that budget life.
Yeah, we did do some epic cave exploration. One thing we didn't actually realise before we got there is that area is very well known for its caves. There's a massive cave system all around the place under that region.
There's at least...
6?
Yeah, 4 or 5
yeah.
pretty big, well-known caves, and then a couple of smaller ones. We were really interested in checking out the caves. And so we did a little bit of research on them, and we found there's one in particular, which is the one we ended up doing, called Giant's Cave. And it's a little bit different to the other ones in that it is basically self-guided. So you go in on your own. There's not much of a sort of pathed track, really, like the other ones are boardwalked, and you have a guided tour and there's lights everywhere, and it's sort of that sort of experience. But we, went in on our own, had our helmets, our torch, had to climb through some pretty, squeeze through some tight spots and up some steep ladders.
Massive
and
ladders
boulder
and,
climbs, and it was quite the adventure.
It was good. Definitely recommend that one. We didn't do any of the others this time, but I'd definitely be keen to check out some of the other caves too next time. But
definitely.
We wanted to do that self-guided experience.
More adventurous.
Yeah. And then from there we went into the Boranup forest and stayed at the Boranup campground, the national park campground there. That was just beautiful. We stayed there a couple of nights, and it's just so peaceful in there. It's a really, really nice campsite amongst all those tall karri trees, and a really unique place. I reckon I slept. It's probably the best sleep I've ever had was in that forest. It was pretty good.
I always thought that the Otways would forever be my favourite forest that I've ever visited. And so when we got here and I saw this place, I was like, nah, this is even better. So I was really not expecting to love it that much, but it's my favourite forest I have ever been to. We planned on staying there like 2 days, and I think we ended up staying a week because we just loved it. We loved, everything about it. We woke up every morning and there was just emus just chilling around the campsite, walking past.
Eating snails off the plants.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it was cool. It was good.
And driving through the forest.
Yeah, really
incredible.
nice forest drive. So there's a sealed road that goes through the forest too that you can do two-wheel drive, or there's an unsealed road, I think it's just called the Boranup Forest Drive, that goes through the forest too. Actually, you could do that in a two-wheel drive, no worries as well.
Absolutely, there's people doing that whole forest in two-wheel drive. You don't need a four-wheel drive for that one. There are four-wheel drive tracks you can take if that's what you love. But a lot of it you can access in a two-wheel drive, which is, awesome. Yeah,
really stunning spot. Highly recommend it. All right, so that is our top 5 favourite spots in Western Australia. We have thoroughly enjoyed all the time that we've spent there. We can't wait to go back, to be honest. We've just crossed the border into SA and felt a little bit sad leaving.
Yeah, we absolutely loved WA. And I think one of the coolest things about WA is it has something for every type of adventurer. Like if you like hiking, you can do Bluff Knoll, sort of hike.
The Granite Skywalk and all that.
If you love your beaches, there's Esperance, like you said at the start. If you love your forward driving, obviously special shout out to the Gibb River Road. That's always going to sort of hold a very special place in our heart, that spot.
Yeah, I think it's probably, that road trip itself is probably my all-time number one road trip of the more common variety and the well-known spots like it. That whole Kimberley region is definitely amazing. Yeah.
Sounds like we probably should have done a top 10.
Yeah, maybe. We probably could have done a top 15 for WA.
Top 20.
It's such a varied state, and so many different climates, obviously, because it's such a long state. Yeah. There's so much to do.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments below if you have any questions about any of the spots that we've visited, or let us know if you have another favourite spot that you've been, that you want to suggest for us to visit on our next WA adventure.
Hit us up with your underrated, lesser known spots that we can go on to a cool four-wheel drive trip of. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.
See you guys.